Why you only evolve when you are alone. Most of us are terrified of silence. We live in a world that never stops talking. We fill every quiet moment with music, with podcasts, with scrolling, with people. We treat being alone like it is a disease, a sign that we are unwanted or unloved. But what if I told you that your fear of solitude is actually a fear of meeting yourself? What if the very thing you are running from is the only thing that can save you? We are taught that growth happens in the classroom, in the boardroom, or in the crowd, but the truth is, we are born in company, but we evolve in silence. In the vibrant city of Ethelgard, there lived a man named Julian. Julian was the man everyone wanted to be. He was a diplomat, charming, witty, and constantly surrounded by admirers. His calendar was full for months in advance. He moved from banquet to banquet, always the center of attention, always laughing, always speaking. But Julian had a secret terror. The moment the door to his glorious apartment closed and the silence of the night crept in, he felt a crushing panic. He felt like he was disappearing without the reflection of others. He didn't know who he was. He was a mirror that only existed when someone stood in front of it to escape this void. He drank, he worked late, he slept with the television on. He was a man running a marathon at full speed, just to stay ahead of his own shadow. Eventually, the exhaustion caught up with him. His hands began to shake. His charm began to crack. His doctor told him simply, "Stop, or your heart will stop for you." Forced to take a sabbatical, Julian traveled to the misty peaks, a remote range known for its silence. He sought out a woman named Seraphina, a legendary weaver who was said to create tapestries that could make a grown man weep. She lived alone in a stone cottage, days away from the nearest village. When Julian arrived, the silence of the mountain was deafening. It rang in his ears. He found Seraphina sitting at her loom, working with threads that shimmered like liquid moonlight. "I don't know how you do it," Julian blurted out, unable to stand the quiet. "Don't you get lonely? Don't you feel ... empty?" Seraphina didn't look up. Her hands moved with a rhythmic grace. "Empty? No. I am full. But you, traveler, you are leaking." She invited him to stay, but on one condition. He was not allowed to speak about the outside world. He was only allowed to observe. For the first few days, Julian nearly went mad. He paced the small room. He tapped his fingers. His mind was a storm of old conversations, regrets, and worries about what people were saying about him back in the city. He felt like he was dying. On the fourth day, he found Seraphina in her garden, crouching over a small, ugly bush. Hanging from a branch was a Chrysalis cocoon, wrapped tight, motionless and dull. "Tell me," Julian Seraphina whispered, "what is happening inside there?" "It's sleeping," Julian said. "Bored, waiting to become a butterfly?" "No," Seraphina corrected him gently. "It is not sleeping, it is disintegrating. Inside that shell, the caterpillar is digesting itself. It is melting down. It is falling apart completely. It is losing every single structure that made it a caterpillar. It is becoming a soup of potential." She stood up and looked him in the eye. "If I were to slice that cocoon open right now, to give it some company, to let some light in, the butterfly would never form. it would die. The transformation requires total isolation. It requires the dark. It requires the containment. The wings cannot grow in the open air. They must be forged in the terrible quiet of the shell. Julian stared at the cocoon. He realized then that he had spent his entire life trying to be a butterfly while refusing to enter the chrysalis. He wanted the flight without the dissolution. You run from the silence, Seraphina continued, because in the silence, you have to face the parts of you that need to die so the new you can be born. You fill your life with noise because you are afraid of the sound of your own transformation. Julian stayed with Seraphina for a month. He didn't become a weaver, and he didn't learn magic. He simply learned to sit. The first week was agony. The second week was sadness. But by the third week, something shifted. The noise in his head settled like dust after a storm. He began to hear his own voice for the first time in years. Not the voice that wanted to please the crowd, not the voice of the diplomat, but the voice of Julian. He realized he didn't actually like the parties. He realized he loved writing, a passion he had abandoned 20 years ago. He realized that his loneliness was just his soul crying out for his own attention. When Julian returned to the city, he looked the same, but he felt different. He was no longer a mere reflecting others. He was a source of his own light. He declined invitations. He spent evenings alone with a pen and paper. People whispered that he had changed, that he was distant. But Julian wasn't distant. He was just selectively present. He had learned the lesson of the cocoon. You cannot find your wings in a crowd. The story of Julian and Seraphina reminds us of a hard truth about the human condition. We are social creatures. Yes, we need connection, but we also need eat, and evolution is a solo project. We live in a culture that monetizes our attention and demonizes our solitude. We are told that if we are alone on a Friday night, we are failing, but emotional solitude is not a failure. It is a laboratory. It is the only place where you can distinguish between who you are and who the world told you to be. If you feel lonely, do not rush to fill the void. Do not pick up the phone. Do not turn on the TV. Sit with it. That discomfort you feel, that is the feeling of the caterpillar dissolving. It is scary, yes, but it is necessary. Embrace the darkness of the cocoon for a while, because on the other side of that solitude is the only thing worth having. A version of you that does need the applause of others to know it can fly.